Hey everyone, I'm Erik.
I'm Alex.
And first of all, we want to thank you for all your super support, all the enthusiasm you showed for med schools in English in Italy, especially on the Facebook group where there's been some fabulous discussions about all kinds of aspects of med schools. So thank you for being you and for your support for us. The question of this video is...
So how is the medical course structured?
So 6 years of medicine in English in Italy. We're going to break it down for you. There's 2 years of preclinical, usually called preclinical activities, and then 4 years of clinical activities, followed by a research thesis, and then a graduation and a thesis defense. So we're going to go through each of those step by step and let you know exactly what they're like, starting with preclinical.
Yeah, so, people always say like preclinical, clinical, like some probably already know it's more scientific. The other one is less scientific.
Right.
But basically the preclinical 2 years of medical school are all about the medically related sciences. So biology, chemistry, physics, everything which can later on help you understand what causes the diseases, how the body functions, and so on. Mm-hmm. In Pavia, I think what was very nice about, for example, physics is that it was purely medically oriented. So it wasn't just some physics, I don't know, asteroids, trajectory calculations. It was actually things related to medicine. Yeah, and I find it great.
Yeah, it's biophysics. And for those of you from North America, the US or Canada, you can kind of think of the first year of medicine in Italy as equivalent to something like pre-med in the United States. But added to that, anatomy and histology, which most pre-meds in the US don't do.
Yeah, that's actually a thing many Americans don't actually know, right? So the programs in Italy are 6 years long, yep. And you don't need a pre-med in order to study in medicine.
Not only that, you don't need a university degree from the United States to enter an Italian medical school in English. All you need is what they say is 13 years of education, which is basically your education through high school and then 1 year of university education, and then you can apply.
All right, but let's get back to our topic. So clinical years, what is that about? Like, do we actually, how does it look like? What is it about?
Right, well, once in a while, I hear this rumor among people considering coming to Italy to study that there's no clinical education for this too, Alex, haven't you? There's no clinical education in Italy and that it's all theoretical. That is completely false, especially with the English med schools. What people are trying to do, what the faculty and the professors are trying to do in these places is create an environment where students are very engaged in the hospital clinical activities. And the newer schools, that is the ones that are getting started this year, Turin, Bologna, and Bergamo, Milan Bicocca, they've all said that they're committing to getting students into the clinic even in the first 2 years of school. So the distinction between preclinical and clinical is actually getting blurred.
Right. Yeah. So that's more of an exception, right? So usually the clinical years are the third year and beyond. Mm-hmm. And for example, in Pavia, that meant that our semester was basically divided to the clinical rotations, which we were doing before lunchtime. Mm-hmm. And then all the lectures which were held after lunchtime, so basically in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. And that was great because you could see and ask some questions during the rotations, and afterwards you study about the same diseases which you basically saw. So it was a nice sort of back and forth. But when we're at it, how does it work with the language? Because, patients don't really like discussing their disease in English, I suppose, right? How did it work in Milan?
Well, okay, so the way it works in Milan is that at the end of 2 years, you have to be at a B2 level of Italian. What's B2? It's basically advanced intermediate. And you take an exam at the end of the second year, and if you pass it, you can go and start working in the clinic. Now, in the other schools, such as Turin, Bologna, Bergamo, and possibly some of the older schools where they're going to start putting people in the clinic earlier, there's a really big question, which is how are students who don't speak Italian going to be able to interact with patients? The answer to that is, to be honest with you, I don't know. Do you, Alex?
Well, for me, it wasn't really much of a topic because we did get some lessons. I mean, Turin probably will get some problems with that, I suppose, because it's really, you have to have probably somebody translating in their case. But in our case, it was pretty straightforward. We just got some courses during the first 2 years. It has been told that we're going to see Italian patients. So most people had already some level of Italian knowledge when they start seeing patients. And also the professors and the Italian students were quite helpful. So they were doing the difficult parts, maybe translation, or like helping out with the word or two here and there. So I would say it worked out pretty well.
Great. Yeah. Well, that brings us to a little secret hint about coming to school doing medicine in English in Italy is when you get here, learn Italian as soon as you can, right? Don't put yourself on this schedule where, oh, okay, I'm just going to put it off until the second year, and I'm just going to barely pass the B2 exam. That's not the right attitude. I mean, you're moving into a country where you are going to be taking care of sick people. So it really should be one of your priorities to learn the language as well as you can, because the sick people aren't going to want to speak English with you. They want to speak Italian.
Exactly. And that's, that's like Erik says, it's an opportunity for you to learn a language on a very good level. And it also, you can do it without really time pressure because you get those 2 years and nobody's stressing you about it, but you can do it easily. And I mean, of course, you're there, so why not?
Also, Italian is a super fun language to learn. It's like singing opera. So just that process itself is enjoyable, especially if you embrace it. So,
but let me mention one more point. So we're talking about Italian language. What about the English? Professors having to teach in English, they're native Italians.
Right. So these medical schools are in English. So you have professors who don't have English as a native language, and you have a lot of students, both Italians and non-Italians, who don't have English as a native language. Okay, so people often ask, how good is the English of the professors at these med schools? The honest answer to that question is that it varies from moderately okay to fantastic, okay? All the professors have their slides in English. You have textbooks in English. So you always have materials and resources to learn from. But the quality of the teaching in the English language does range quite a bit. And some professors are harder to understand than others. I'm just being straightforward with you about that.
Yeah, so you basically don't have to, you cannot really expect a native level of English when you come to Italy or for that, any European university, I suppose. But some of the schools have hired native language teachers, professors. There are at least 2 in Pavia, I believe. And Bergamo is teaming up with the University of Surrey, which is an English university, to develop their curriculum. So there's going to be an English language influence there. And I can tell you that there are a number of guest lecturers who come in Milan and at the other schools too, who are native English speakers. For Pavia, I can say that most teachers that are doing those courses are already pre-selected. So they already have some background in English. They already did some research abroad in most cases. And of course, there is some variability there. And of course, there are people who are just really good and others who are fine. But I wouldn't say that English ever was a main issue during the study. So I never felt like I'm missing out because of that.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's for it. Mm-hmm.
The next topic, is basically your clinical experiences, which are 4 years in Italy. And Alex has actually gone through the whole 4 years. I haven't, so he's more qualified to speak about this than I am.
Yeah, but it's more or less what you sort of expect to, I think, and when you're told about clinical years. So you visit the wards, you see patients, you get lectured about all sorts of diseases, all sorts of treatments. So that's the real medicine, so to say. It begins with more medical basics, so physiology, how your body works, then pathology and all the other things. So building you slowly towards those more specialized areas of medicine. But I mean, it's fun and I've enjoyed it. And I think that's the essence of the medical school there, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up for this video, or was there anything else you want to mention?
Well, I want to mention that you do have to write a research thesis at the end of your studies, and then you go to graduation and you have to defend your thesis, and when you do, you get to dress up. And then when you graduate, you put a laurel wreath on your head, and everybody takes pictures of you with the beautiful university set in the background, and then you put them on Facebook, and you get lots of likes.
Yeah.
Which leads leads us to our next video, which is going to be about what your options are for wedging some student exchange experiences into your course over those 6 years.
Yeah, and we're going to explain exactly what that we mean by that in that next video. But so just stay tuned.
Check out those videos. Check out our other videos. Make sure you go to medschool.it, our website, our Facebook group, medschool.it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. The little subscribe button is right here. Ciao!
Ciao!